Good evening. So you probably noticed I used two words tonight somewhat frequently. They're two of my favorite words, rest and enjoyment. They're two of those words that when you hear them, they kind of evoke the very thing that they're pointing to. When you hear rest, don't you feel a little rest? When you hear enjoyment, don't you just brighten a little bit? They're really part of the skill of meditating and drawing nourishment really from meditating. There is a way to do meditation where you're trying really hard to still the mind and you're doing the stuff you're supposed to be doing, and it doesn't let you rest. And as I was speaking of it, I clarified, but I'll clarify again that by rest I mean, not just what people mean when they lay down and they rest their body. We're probably mostly talking about resting your mind and resting your heart. What does it mean to do that? To rest your mind and rest your heart. In this tradition, it means to bring it all into this present moment and to be present and to soak in that presence of the moment. Kind of let it imbue you, let it sink into your being so that it can nourish you, restore you. And to do that, the habits of the mind and heart to go into the future and go into the past make that difficult. We're often in a state of anticipation for what's to come. We're often meeting the present moment with some goal in mind of how we'd like to move it or change it or something. We're, often full of expectations or dread, even about what's coming. So just to relax those capacities of the human mind, which I don't exactly know what's going on in animals' minds, but it seems like they're not doing this quite as much. It seems like we humans have perfected the art of symbolically representing to ourselves things that don't yet exist and may never exist. So coming into rest means not doing that. And similarly with the past, we're often referencing the past, bringing it in to interpret the present moment, often with a sense of anxiety built in, if something has gone wrong in the past around a certain activity. We bring it in again, and our minds believe they're protecting us that way, and maybe to some degree they do. But as we rest in meditation, given that you're probably safe sitting in your room silently, you can relax that. Whatever there is about the past you need to recall, you don't have to in this moment. Whatever there is in the future that you need to prepare for, you don't have to in the moment that you're meditating. And just saying that to myself makes me rest more. It's like, oh, wow, I don't have to do that. It's actually safe here. It's actually safe here in the present moment. It's funny, how you have to set aside time to do this thing called meditating. You actually have to schedule it in a certain sense, whether it's in your mental schedule or actually in your book, to clear out the time to let it happen, to let nothing happen, really, to let everything settle and everything become more still in this resting. And the word enjoyment, I taught a whole class on this maybe a couple of years ago. And who knows, may do it again. I love the topic. There's something about the word that evokes the very thing it's talking about. Enjoyment. And just the word can shift one's attitude towards what's going on, make it less of a task, less of a performance that you're doing, keeping your mind on the breath, less of a good thing to do for myself, though of course it is, and more like showing up with what's real, sitting here breathing. Something, of course, the body has got to do every single moment, but our hearts and minds aren't there. But what if they were there? What if our heart actually showed up with the breath? I use the word attention, but attention can sometimes be a little bit thin. But what if your heart showed up with breathing? That would be a good meditation instruction. I'll see if I can remember that. What if your heart showed up with your breath right now? You can try it as you're listening. That's a bit of what enjoyment is. It's like bringing that affective richness to an experience. I believe through my explorations of life and experience through meditating and beyond meditation, that there's something just intrinsically enjoyable in being, in the things just being what they are. There's a joy there. It's often obscured by our minds, but there's a joy there. And when I wake up to it, wake up to that joy and rest in it, I'm often astonished. There's astonishment there. Can you love this breath right now? Can you receive it as the miracle and gift that it is? Just now. It represents your life, this breathing. The breath and the life, they're like this, It also represents the way that you can there's a flow to the breath, and as you just kind of lower yourself into the river of breathing, if I can put it that way, like the kind of flow of the inhale and the exhale. There's a kind of surrender to what's happening of itself. It's such a tonic for the egoic mind, which thinks it's in control, thinks that it's the boss of everything going on inside of you. It's not. And as you relax into breathing, it is like you're relaxing your ego. It really is. But if you're like me, I've been a breath controller from way back. Mostly slipped out of it. But I know what that's like, where even that sense of control can be around the breath. But to the extent that you can just dip yourself down into the flow of the breath, the in and the out, and just a sense of being. It's important as you do this to really notice. If you find that it makes you sleepy, I suspect you're not really bringing your heart to it. You're not really bringing energy to it. Not really bringing interest to it, into breathing. And I don't mean by any way to judge you for doing that. I certainly have spent many of my meditations falling asleep, and this time of night can be brutal that way, especially if you've had a hard day. So no judgment, but that's part of why I think enjoyment is such a helpful word for meditating, because it implies that there's a kind of an energy meeting the breath. You're actually like taking it in if you're enjoying it. You're actually giving it its due. You're actually there. And frequently, I think we're keeping ourselves awake with our thoughts and our conversations and our, getting things done. And when we're not doing that, it's sometimes hard, especially if you're new to meditation, to have in your being that there's something to do. So you immediately kind of drop down into the theta state, into kind of dreamy, drifty, kind of not so present. So easy to do. So at first, I think you do need to arouse something in enjoyment as you invoke it, as I said. But as you touch the enjoyment in the breath, something wakes up inside that likes it, and it becomes easier as you touch that quality. And the paradox is that it happens better the less you try. So I'm kind of saying both meet it with some energy, but don't try. What do I mean by trying? Trying to me, I can feel how the ego gets involved with it. Like there's some measuring myself that's going to happen pretty soon with doing it. Whereas with meditating, it does take some effort. It takes some effort when you wake up to a thought, thinking, to find the body, find the breath. It takes some effort. It takes some energy. As I suggest, to rest, it actually takes a little energy to bring the mind back. It takes a little energy. But if you kind of get wrapped up in, well, am I creating the state that Mark thinks I'm supposed to have? And am I doing that well enough? And blah, 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 blah. That's more the ego. That's more just that starting up. And what's the solution for that? Just recognize it. Just see, okay, that's getting involved here. My sense of self is taking over a bit here. And just the seeing of it is often sufficient to just kind of let it go. This sort of way that we can arouse some energy, have some intention in our practice, have some invitation to move towards certain states that maybe at first aren't easy, without having that, if possible, get mixed up in this other thing, which is our identity and our self-evaluation. That's really, really key. It's not easy. As you may see, it's not easy. But all that comes with resting. Resting is about, the mind not being in the future, the mind not being in the past, but also in the present moment. Not going into that kind of evaluative stance with your experience, or feeling like your self is on the line here. Now we do that so automatically, and it's not your fault if it happens. It really isn't. It's just conditioning arising. And so you just meet it and see it. Oh, okay. Judgment, evaluation. Or the feeling that, my capacity as a human person is on the line here. There's a distinct feeling to that. And so resting is very much about setting that down. And it takes persistence. Resting is also about kind of accustoming your system, your whole sensitive, intelligent system, to what this is like and the goodness of it. As your system tastes the goodness of it, it more naturally wants it. It more naturally begins to settle as it begins to kind of taste the enjoyment that's possible in just being. It's less of a struggle. And I also, kind of brought the word ocean in. Again, it's a word that can be kind of helpful. It's possible when you're meditating to feel kind of cramped, like you got a job to do and there's this attention thing and whatever. I really find the word ocean and just acknowledging the ocean of presence, the ocean of consciousness that is here, that is what you are. It undoes that. It takes some of that tightness away, little by little, which is why I suggested that you kind of marinate in it, you bask in it. That's Locke Kelly's word, marinate. Kind of stole it from him, but basking like you do in the sun, marinating like you would if you were about to be eaten, soaking like in a warm bath. And in a certain sense, in terms of just pure air, breathing is kind of like marinating. We're surrounded by this substance that is our very life. And sometimes just a simple kind of recollection about it and gratitude for it can help bring this capacity to rest. And as you rest, it feels as though there's more and more like presence and more kind of energy and ballast to being present. You can, in these moments, start to feel more kind of tingling, more kind of energy in the body. Sometimes people even start to feel restless because this does kind of raise a psychophysical energy. Prana or chi is the names it's given to in India and China. It does kind of raise a certain energy. And so to be able to feel kind of the ocean helps that energy not to feel like too much or too contained. It's like more here-ness, more now-ness, gradually accumulating. And you may notice this when you finish meditating. There's this shift of state. And you open your eyes. And for a while, the sheer isness, for lack of a better word, of everything around you is sharper. Right now, there's this computer in front of me, I can kind of do the thing where I'm just, there. But once in a while, I just kind of take in this little machine here that purrs once in a while. And it has some being, it has some presence. It has a whole lot of mental and physical energy put into it to create it. That's a further mental kind of perception. But the real direct one is like, oh, there it is. So my sense for the week is to go into your meditation practice and your life with these two words: rest and enjoyment. See where they can apply. We can't always rest, but every moment that we're present can be a moment of rest. And it doesn't take a lot of time at all. To taste a bite, to smell the air, to feel the touch of the wind on your cheek, to notice what the body feels like. They're just these little drops of what I'm talking about throughout the day of rest. For the moment that you, like, say, feel your hands folded in your lap, just actually feel them, there's rest there. Your mind's not in the future, it's not in the past. The moment you really look at the colors, and they're coming, the colors in nature, they're coming. Some of them are already here. Actually, just rest with them. Let them touch you. Enjoy them. Enjoyment, yes. Enjoy what's right before you. It's temporary. That's what seasons are about. But in the river of this sort of time that we're in, space and time, a moment of resting is a moment of actually letting what's present touch you, even as it's moving on.